Hello class. Today we're going to discuss the lumbopelvic hip complex, and we are going to explore this topic through the standing power throw and triple extension. So first question that comes to mind here is, what is triple extension? Triple extension is using the musculature at the hip, knee, and ankle to create powerful extension movements. These movements are found in everyday activities, from sitting to standing, from running, jumping, swimming, when someone is swimming and they do a flip turn at the end of their lane and then they push off the wall with their feet. That's an example of triple extension. Baseball pitching, basketball, the list could go on and on and on. So when we look at extension at the hip, we're looking specifically at the medial hamstring group, the lateral hamstring group, and then your gluteus maximus. Your medial hamstring group is going to include your semimembranosus and your semitendinosus, and then your lateral hamstring group is going to include your biceps femoris. Okay, so now we're going to look at extension at the knee. This is done through the quadriceps group, through the gastrocnemius, and the soleus. Eccentric loading is an important component that we're using to build up to that triple extension. How that happens is when the body is put into an eccentric load, it then fires concentrically through that posterior musculature at the hip, through that musculature at the knee, and then through the musculature at the ankle, which we're going to talk about on the next slide. Eccentric loading requires eccentric load magnitude in excess of the concentric prescription. The elongated muscle is stretched, which stores elastic energy. This method has been theorized to potentiate concentric performance through higher eccentric loading and thus higher concentric force production. So what does that mean? It basically means that when you are eccentrically loading something, you are stretching or elongating that muscle. So it elongates because the external force is greater than the concentric force. The reason that that is so important is because that eccentric loading stores elastic energy in the muscle. So then when it is recruited and asked to fire, it creates an incredible force. That's how we get into triple extension being an incredibly important component to movements like the standing power throw. So now let's look at extension at the ankle. Extension at the ankle is also called plantar flexion. So plantar flexion is going to be primarily through the gastrocnemius, and then there are other plantar flexors that also contribute, but not as significantly as the gastroc. Elastic energy causes the ankle joint to launch your body into triple extension with incredible force. If an athlete lands with their heel striking first, these ground reaction forces are lost or absorbed into the ground. So now we're getting into a little bit of Newton's laws of physics here. But this athletic potential is compromised. Not what we want to do when we're trying to make incredibly powerful movements like the standing power throw. So here we can see those muscles that are being used in triple extension or used to create triple extension. Again, it's those hip extensors, knee extensors, and your ankle plantar flexors. So you can see this musculature posteriorly at the hip, anteriorly at the knee, and then posteriorly at the ankle. All of them working together to create that triple extension. So when we talk about the standing power throw, this triple extension comes into play at the most important part of the movement. And you can see right here at the back end of where this movement is, you can see how extended she is. I would change the fact that she's going to be toes pointed just because of the sheer momentum coming from that loaded lumbopelvic hip complex, right? So when she squats down over here, she's loading that area of the body to then fire it up into this. That's the whole point of what we're doing here. So the standing power throw is an important measure that has been added to a soldier's physical fitness test. The Army used to test soldiers through the APFT, the Army Physical Fitness Test. They have since modified the APFT, and it is now called the ACFT, the Army Combat Fitness Test, and it includes 6 tests as opposed to 3 tests that were on the Army Physical Fitness Test, the APFT. One of the movements from the ACFT now is the standing power throw. It specifically evaluates power from a soldier. It measures the upper and lower body explosive power, flexibility, and dynamic balance. Explosive power contributes to tasks requiring quick explosive movements to maneuver equipment and personnel. This replicates to throwing equipment onto or over an obstacle, lifting themselves or a fellow soldier, or assisting someone or a buddy or soldier to move rapidly across uneven terrain. It's an important component to evaluate within our armed forces. And so you can see here, she's starting with the ball at chest level. She's most likely going to give it a few swings just to kind of get a feel for it. But then on that last one, before she's going to release the ball, she's going to bring the ball down low, load up that entire lumbopelvic hip complex. She's flexed at the ankle, flexed at the knee, flexed at the hip. She's then going to start to fire that hip forwards. And in doing so, when she fires that hip forwards, that force translates through her body up into her arms and then out through the ball as it travels down the lane, the test lane behind her. So it's really important to understand how the lumbopelvic hip complex, and specifically the musculature surrounding that, is essential to multiple tasks throughout the day. Weakness at the lumbopelvic hip complex can jeopardize movement, flexibility, mobility, balance, coordination distally within the body. So in closing, be sure to go back through and understand the components of triple extension, why and how it relates to the standing power throw, and then how this all ties together and is based off of a strong lumbopelvic hip complex. Okay, that's it for now. Have a great day.